What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the last couple of days, a lot of writers, a lot of analysts, a lot of people talking about the Detroit Lions have, been talking about the possibility that the Detroit Lions bring in Clay Mathews to help bolster our roster, help bolster our linebacking core, our pass rush, and just kind of give us a boost and, bring in a guy that wouldn't cost a lot of money but still brings a huge boost and a huge advantage to this defense. Now, we did talk about this as the DSA. We talked about this on the round table the other day, but my answer was kind of quick. I kind of gave my reason, but I wanted to elaborate because the more I look at this, the more I think that this could be a really, really underrated signing for the Detroit Lions and a really, really good one. So before we do get into talking about this, though, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying the content, consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It takes 2 seconds every day to make a mine, and I would be very, very appreciative to everybody that chooses to do so. But with that being said, let's get into talk about whether or not the Detroit Lions should, in fact, sign Clay Mathews to help bolster this roster. So, Clay Mathews is currently a 34-year-old linebacker that is still sitting in free agency. Clay Mathews is a former first-round pick as he was selected 26th overall by the Green Bay Packers in the 2009 draft out of the University of Southern California. Now, Clay Mathews is a 6-time Pro Bowler, a 1-time All-Pro, and a 1-time Super Bowl champion with those Green Bay Packers. However, last year he was not there in Green Bay. He signed a 1-year contract to play for the Los Angeles Rams, in the state that he went to school, just down the street from where he played college football. Now, Clay Mathews in 2019 put up some very good stats. He put up 37 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 11 quarterback hits, 8 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles, and he did that while playing in only 53% of the Los Angeles Rams defensive snaps. So a very good season. Even though he's getting older, he still put up production. He still showed that he could be a very good pass rusher in the NFL and showed a lot of very good things that the Detroit Lions could take advantage of if we choose to sign him. Now, one of the things I really like about Clay Mathews is that he can fit in anywhere. He can play inside or outside linebacker for you, which is something not a ton of linebackers in the NFL can do. So if you bring that versatility, which is something we know Matt Patricia loves, is versatility in linebackers, defensive line, and secondary players, that could give him a good reason, or that could give Matt Patricia a good reason to sign Clay Mathews, is that he can play both positions. So if there is an injury, Clay Mathews can plug in anywhere and still be effective for you. Now, the Detroit Lions were one of the worst pass rushing teams in the 2019 season, tying for 29th worst in the NFL with only 28 sacks, and that is bad by itself. But the Detroit Lions also lost their leading sack producer this past offseason when they decided to release Devon Kennard, who had 7 sacks for the Detroit Lions, leading the team with Trey Flowers. As I said, Detroit, didn't have a huge pass rush last year. They need a lot of help, and they just got rid of a guy at the outside linebacker position. What does Clay Mathews primarily play? I know he said we could do both, but he's primarily an outside linebacker that rushes the passer, kind of like Devon Kennard, If we bring in Clay Mathews, it's pretty much like replacing Devon Kennard right off the bat, and we just put in a different number, we put in a different name on the back of the jersey, and he goes out and does, the same, if not better than what Devon Kennard just did in this past season. As I said, Clay Mathews had 8 sacks last year, which was more than anybody in Detroit could say. Now, what does Clay Mathews bring to the Detroit Lions outside pass rush? Because we just talked about, he had a good season. He can bring immediate pass rush. He can help replace Devon Kennard immediately. But does he have any other value, other than a situational or even more than a pass rusher that plays 50% of your snaps? Yes, he brings veteran leadership. He is a guy that has won the Super Bowl. He's been an All-Pro. He's played in a lot of big games with Aaron Rodgers. He's played in this division for a very long time, so he knows the nuances of the guys he's playing against in this division. And, I think he can bring a lot of good veteran leadership. And then, as I just mentioned, he's played in this division for a long time. He knows how to beat the Packers tackles. He knows how to beat the Bears tackles. He knows how to beat the Vikings tackles. He's done it for the better part of a decade, and it's not like the offensive lines have changed that much. And even if they have, he still knows a lot of these guys on the rosters. He still knows how the quarterbacks are going to play. He's played against Kirk Cousins. He's played against Trubisky. He's played against Aaron Rodgers for a long time in practice. And, he knows how the quarterbacks like to move. He knows, the nuances. He knows the little things that those quarterbacks like, how to make them feel uncomfortable, and how to, just get to the quarterback in this division, because he's done it for the better part of a decade. Now, not only that, Clay Mathews, as I said, brings leadership, but he can also mentor some of the young guys. Him and Julian Okwara are very, very similar players, or at least they were when they were both coming out of college. Now, I'm going to read the 2 scouting reports for you, or at least the line that stood out to me and, shows me why I think this could be a good matchup for a mentor, mentee kind of relationship. Now, when Clay Mathews was coming out of USC, his scouting report said that he was an aggressive blitzer who lacks technique. Now, Julian Okwara's scouting report said that he was an athletic linebacker but needs to polish his technique. So both players coming out of college were athletic outside linebackers that were good at rushing the passer but needed technique. They needed to polish their technique. They needed to clean it up if they wanted to be successful in the NFL. Now, obviously, Clay Mathews went a little bit earlier than Julian Okwara. He went a full 2 rounds earlier. However, that does not mean that Julian Okwara is a bad player, and it does not mean that he cannot fix things to, does not mean that Julian Okwara cannot fix things to become a premier pass rusher just like Clay Mathews. Now, right before the draft, there were a couple rumors, that maybe Julian Okwara sneaks into the end of the first round, early second round, but he did not. He fell to the middle of the third round, early third round, where the Detroit Lions selected him. I think Clay Mathews can come in and be a great mentor for Julian Okwara. Obviously, he has his brother in Romeo Okwara. Obviously, he has Trey Flowers, who's a very good player, but he doesn't really have that outside linebacker. All those guys playing the defensive line, none of those guys have played the jack role. None of those guys have rushed the passer from a linebacker's perspective like Clay Mathews has done. I think Clay Mathews, obviously we saw that he figured out in the NFL. He did a very good thing. You could make a case that he could make it to the Hall of Fame one day. But, obviously, no matter if you think he is that or not, he was an All-Pro. He's been a 6-time Pro Bowler. He knows how to get to the quarterback, and he figured it out in the NFL. And who better to teach Julian Okwara these things? Who's better to teach Julian Okwara the technique, the strategies, the things that you need to know as a pass rusher, the small things, the technique, than a guy that had the same problems coming out of college and figured it out. I think he can teach Julian Okwara how to be that great pass rusher. I think he can teach him the techniques that are most effective for a guy with his skill set. A big, athletic, fast guy that just needs to polish some things up. Clay Mathews was in that same situation, and who better to teach Julian Okwara how to polish those things than a guy that did it himself and was one of the best pass rushers in the NFL for over a decade. Now, with that being said, I don't think Julian Okwara is quite going to live up to Clay Mathews, but he could if he was mentored by that guy, right? And obviously, if we can get a Clay Mathews in the third round, that is a pick well spent and a very, that's another pick you chalk up to Bob Quinn and say, fantastic pick in the third round, put it up there with Kenny Galladay and some of the other third round picks that we have selected in recent years. So I do think we should bring in Clay Mathews. I think he can be a great addition to these Detroit Lions linebacking core, and I think he can add to the pass rush. I think he can teach Julian Okwara a couple things to let him be successful in the future. He can obviously add to the pass rush. He can add to the linebacking core. Get rid of Christian Jones, and then even if he doesn't pan out in Detroit, right? Say we pay him a lot of money, which I don't think we'll have to. I think Clay Mathews will be a fairly cheap contract, but say we pay him a lot of money, or we have to pay him a lot of money to come to Detroit. I don't think, even it doesn't matter if we pay him a lot of money. We have the third most cap space in the NFL right now, and Clay Mathews is not going to be asking for a lot of money, and he might even want to come to Detroit to try to get back at the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Green Bay Packers did end up cutting Clay Mathews after the 2018 season because he had he had slightly a down season where he only put up 3 sacks. The Packers cut him and he went to the Los Angeles Rams to play in LA. He might want to come back and play for the Detroit Lions or play for another NFC North team to get back at the Packers to show them that, you should not have come. You made a mistake when you did this, and I'm going to prove you, and I'm going to prove your organization wrong. I'm going to prove that you guys should have kept me, and I'm going to play you twice a year and make you regret the decision every single snap that I am on the field. That we've seen that with Mike Daniels last year. We see this all the time with players that get cut from an organization and they go to a division rival to play that team twice a year and make that team regret the decision of cutting them. And I think that could be a big incentive for Clay Mathews. And obviously we have the money to bring him here, even if even if that's not as big as contributing factor, even if he's not necessarily wanting to get back at Green Bay, we have the money to bring him in. We have the third most cap space in the NFL, as I said, so we have the money to bring him in. And even if we do and he falls off really hard, say he doesn't get any sacks, like say he gets hurt like Mike Daniels did, it's a 1-year contract, and it's not like we're spending that money on anybody else, so it's not like there are no negatives in this situation. The only thing that can come of Clay Mathews is positive. The worst possible scenario is that we play Clay Mathews for a year. We pay one extra player that we wouldn't have been paying before. We still have a ton of cap space in the NFL. We're still going to be up there top 5 in cap spaces. We're still going to have a ton of money to do if we need to make a move. And, if he doesn't produce, oh well, 1 year, bad contract. We get it off the books. It's fine. We move on. And the best case scenario is that Clay Mathews comes in, he gets 8 sacks like he did in LA, which is, better than any Detroit Lions did last year. He bolsters his pass rush, he makes a big push, he makes a big impact on this roster, helps push us to the playoffs, helps teach Julian Okwara the nuances, the techniques that he needs to learn to be effective in the NFL as a pass rusher. And we get a Clay Mathews like pass rusher for the next decade in Julian Okwara, who we spent a 3rd round pick on, and, Bob Quinn gets another third-round pick under his belt that just dominates the NFL like a Kenny Galladay. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think we should sign Clay Mathews or not? Personally, I really don't see a downside to this other than, you know, maybe we pay him where we could have been paying somebody else, but it doesn't seem like the Detroit Lions are too keen on signing a whole lot more players right now. So even if we don't sign anybody else, we still have a ton of cap space. So, and if we sign Clay Mathews, we'll still have a ton of cap space if we want to make a trade or, if we want to make a trade or sign somebody in free agency midway through the season. So I really don't see a downside to us doing this. I can only see the positives to this because, there aren't a lot of downsides. So let me know if you can think of anything down in the comments below, but just looking at it, I can only see positives to this. I can only see a positive outcome, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Should we sign the former Packer in Clay Mathews to come into Detroit on a cheap deal, help teach Julian Okwara, help bolster this pass rush, pair him with Trey Flowers and Danny Shelton and Deshaun Hand and all the other pass rushers we have, hopefully bring him in to be the guy he was in LA and Green Bay in the early parts of his career and hopefully help push us to the playoffs. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Should we sign Clay Mathews or not? Leave me the reasons down below that you think so. But with that being said, that's all I have for you guys today. If there is Lions news before tomorrow, I'll obviously make a video letting every single person know. But until then, that is all I have for you guys today. As I said, let me know down in the comments what you think about signing Clay Mathews. But with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. That is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see all of you in the video tomorrow. Bye, guys.